Thank you, Mr. Schmeier. Salesforce, helping the world's firms from the small to medium-sized, large ones, transform, trailblazing on the fastest path to digital transformation. And you heard Mr. Schmeier there, the industry cloud, he says, is the fastest path to the digital imperative. Our fourth and final headline speaker is the current CEO of Nct Research Inc., an organization focusing on fundamental basic research out of Silicon Valley, California. He has led NTT America Inc. as CEO for nearly 10 years. He is an engineering graduate of Keio University, Tokyo, with a master's degree in engineering from the University of Illinois. He was recognized as part of the Global Telecom Business Power 100 list in 2009. Here to share with us a comprehensive look at NTT R&D's foray into quantum computing, next generation cryptography technologies, and the medical applications of advanced IT technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us live from California, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Kazuhiro Gomi.
Well, thank you very much, Kathy. I'm Kazu Gomi. This is my great pleasure and honor to be a part of DigiCon 2020. It's very nice to talk with you today. So I'm going to talk about the impact of looking beyond the horizon. So I'm going to talk about the basic research and what's that big technology breakthrough that the engineers and scientists are working on. So basic research is that something, in my opinion, that the before and after that such big invention was created, the whole world has changed. So those are the definitions, and what we are embarking on is those research areas. So as a starting point, let me show you a quick short video clip.
How does change happen? How did a revelation by an 18th century English physician usher in the dawn of immunology? How did two brothers with a boyhood dream to defy the law of gravity launch an era of flight where 6 million of us now take to the skies every day? How did the need for collaboration at 4 leading universities set the cornerstone of the internet that today digitally connects us to the totality of human understanding? In the tradition of these breakthroughs, NTT Research tackles the most challenging scientific questions of our time in an effort to further humanity and the lives of us all. Every day, we strive to create a smarter world for the greater good. Because at NTT Research, our mission is not just to change the world, it's to upgrade reality.
All right, thank you very much. So those are the 3 episodes that of the big inventions. So finding of a vaccine, Wright brothers' first flight, and then also the internet. So before and after of those inventions, our life has changed drastically. So that's the kind of thing we're working on. Now let's look at let's look at the current situation. Where are we now? So as we all heard from the previous speakers, from Nokia, Cisco, Salesforce, we are at the stage of all kinds of digital transformation. Those digital transformations are making our lives so much richer, business so much more interesting and efficient. And then I would imagine those digital transformation will continue even more. However, we have to look a little bit one step back and look at the situation. There are actually beyond the horizon, there are many limiting factors. What I mean by limiting factors are that if we don't take care of those things, those digital transformation may be slowed down or can be stopped or hampered at the minimum. Those things are energy consumptions. As some of you may know that the data center energy consumption is out of roof. Moore's laws are getting limitations, so we cannot expect too much of the chip horsepower from the CPUs. And the security and privacy, those are certainly the concerns. And if we don't take care of those issues wisely and correctly, we may again slowing down. We may see the slowdown of the digital transformation. Therefore, we need upgrade reality, change that the fundamentals here. Now, today I want to talk about three things out of that as an example of such upgrade reality activities that NTT Research is working on. NTT Research is part of NTT organizations, and then again working on those basic research areas. So let's just moving on. The first topic I would like to talk about is the bio-digital twin. Actually, in the previous video I showed you, the last scene is kind of implying this bio-digital twin. What I mean by bio-digital twin is basically try to create the digital replica or electronic replica of a human body. So, at the end of the day, if we get this, if we are able to create something like that, the future clinical, medical activity is going to be very different. If we have a precise replica of your human body, you can predict what type of disease, what type of problem you will have in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years down the road. Or if your doctor needs to test a new drug for you, but before you test that drug to your own body, we can test it out with digital twin. So there are many benefits that we can bring into if we can get there. So this is, it's more like a piece of technology. To get there, we need to be able to overcome many different hurdles from many different disciplines coming into the pictures. But this is certainly one of our big goal for the next decades that we all should look at. So let's put it this way. Now, when you look at the couple of different components to make the biodigital twin possible, one of the first thing you may think of is the computing power. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the quantum computing. So, well, every day people uses that digital computers, well, for your life, for your business. I'm sure you haven't, well, that's what's going on now. And those computers are very well designed, and then over the years, it has a superpower. But, and then you feel like today's computer can do everything that you can think of. And then, yeah, almost everything you can think of. But there is actually a set of problems that today's well, we call it classical computer, but this is basically today's computer. Today, there are a set of problems today's computer has a problem with solving it. And these are the very complex problem that we are talking about. And I'm going to talk about what you mean by complex problem. But there are certainly many problems that we want to solve using today's computer. But some of them, actually, it takes years to find the answer. Versus if a quantum computer is becoming available, those answers apply to the same problem. Same answer can be drawn in the matter of seconds. So this is the type of difference between the conventional computer and the quantum computer is all about. Now, so what do you mean by quantum computer? There are, let's see, can you move to the next slide, please? So there are a couple of different quantum computers, but all are based upon the quantum physics. And the quantum physics is a very obviously advanced physical theory, and it should work, but it has a lot of sensitivities and prone to noise. And so NTT's approach is that we are working on a thing called quantum annealing. And then more specifically, the type of machine that we are building, we are working on is called coherent Ising machines. And this machine is good to solve a combinatorial optimization problem. It's a big word. I will explain what it is later. But more importantly, this when you apply this quantum annealing type of mechanism, then this machine can be pretty robust against noise and the errors. So what that means that we may be able to bring those very super fast machine to the market, to the reality much quicker. So that's what we are aiming at. Now, in that machine, what is going to happen is that very complex optimization problem. So meaning that there are many, many parameters, and then find the best solution. And then you basically, the machine will find the best solutions. It's a matter of seconds. And then which, the conventional machine would take years and months and that kind of magnitude. Now, type of solutions that we are looking at is this combinatorial optimization problem is that these things, lead optimization, this is basically the finding a new drugs, or resource optimization, traffic control, optimize the traffic, and on the deep neural network, this is part of AI applications, and the compressed sensing. This can, you can apply that to MRI machines and stuff. So basically, these quantum computing will be applied to this problem, and then again, drastically shorten that time to resolve these issues. Now, computation is one hand, and then another certainly big problem is the cybersecurities and privacy issues. Now, in the connected world we are living in, this is certainly can be a big problem. From the connected world, obviously we want to exchange more data amongst each other and between the sensors, but you have to make sure that those are securities are kept and the privacies are kept. So obviously we have to have those things together to get the best out of the connected world. Now, when you think about it, there's one of the core of the security is the encryptions. And everybody knows, I think, that familiar with the encryption, what the encryption does. But today's encryption, when you think about it, you give a data to someone and then you give a right key, then this person can see the data. And if you don't get the right key, you don't see anything. But in this scenario, you give the data and you disclose everything or nothing. So kind of all or nothing kind of scenario. But in a more modern world, we see that that's not really the case. Depending upon the data itself can be very big. Many multi columns, so to speak, are there. And then depending upon who you give to the data, the type of information they need to see may be different. So for example, in this slide shows that if we have a big data and then give it to the clinical analysis versus give it to the financial analysis. Now, obviously, those two group of people, they need to look at two different sets of data. And there's advanced cryptography, which allows you to do those control by giving them a different key. When you do the encryption, the same encryption, but you can create a couple different decryption key to decrypt the data, open the data, and then by giving a different data, the type of data you see is different. So this is called, so this type of encryption is called functional encryptions. And this is a type of next generation advanced encryptions. So this is more, not quite the 10 years down the road. We're thinking maybe within the next couple of years, we should be able to commercialize this type of technologies. But again, we can maintain the privacy while encouraging that the sharing the data with this mechanism. And then further down the road, something that the researchers are working on is called obfuscation of program, obfuscated program. What that means is that you can, well, encryption is hiding a data. This is one step ahead. You can hide the computer program. Nobody understands what's going on in this black box. At this stage, our researchers just recently, it's a matter of a couple of months ago, proved that the such obfuscation of the program is possible. But this is a theoretical stage at this time. But once this is done, we can create a lot of, we can bring a lot of flexibilities in encryption and the data security side. So those are the things that people are working on. And so I just wanted to give you some glimpse of what's going on in the fundamental research. So that's it, Kathy. Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, that's a whole lot to digest. I tell you, it's a compelling presentation, Kazu, for giving us a look-see into that black box, into upgrading reality, as seen through your nonlinear thinking, invention, pretty much what our medical professionals need help with as they get on with the vaccine development and the production. You know, I'm starting to get a couple of questions from the audience, so please keep them coming. I'll get to those in a moment, but first, you know that even before COVID-19, Kazu, people were already talking about a renaissance in cryptography. And you know this, you've seen this journey. But what role does cryptography now play as a leading technology, helping with the clinical trials in developing the very urgent COVID-19 vaccine?
Right, yes. So obviously with the COVID-19 vaccine, this is a very pressing problem that everybody's facing. Well, certainly that the cryptography scientists, they just keep working on with or without COVID-19s, but definitely there is a common theme that how to maintain the privacy. We want to encourage people to exchange data, but everybody has concern about you don't want to disclose too much privacy by disclosing data. But for the clinical trial, like COVID-19 situation, you need all kinds of data, and you need more data. So we need to encourage people to share those data. But again, you have to protect the privacy. So this is a really important element to make the society possible. So it is in a way timely, those things are kind of coming together, but it's not just under the COVID-19 situation. I think it can apply to everything right now.
That's true, but it takes on an urgent sort of disposition, the idea of privacy. I mean, we're having problems with privacy with just a simple exchange of emails. I mean, one of the big issues when you come to think of it with the clinical trials is really protecting the privacy of each of the participants, of the patients. I mean, as you said, you need to hide some of the data, but there's a sort of irony here because you also need to reveal some other information for all the clinical trials to work. So exactly. What are some of those technologies, Kazu, that you're working with in Silicon Valley with your team to ensure that cryptography addresses these two contrasting issues?
Right. So it may be a bit more detail here, but there are a couple of different, obviously, mechanisms you can do to protect the privacy and then exchange that, encourage the exchange of the data. But one of the key that you apply, you create that this encryption technology, that functional, next generation encryption technology, you embed those encryption into the data. So if this data goes somewhere, that the security is kept. So that's the key things that this new encryption technology is achieving. And again, through doing so, I'm hoping that people feel more. We can say that this is more secure than any other way of protecting your privacy. So people feel more comfortable in the end. And then again, by doing that, people can exchange more data more freely, and then that will certainly, to make the long story short, get to the goal line quicker in terms of coming up with a new drug for the COVID-19, for example.
Yeah, I think the big variable here, Kazu, is really to encourage people like us, who have been pretty distrusting, if I may say that, to privacy issues online
Mm-hmm.
because of the various breaches and what's gone on in COVID-19's pandemic. But do you think that the pandemic itself provides a certain sense of heightened urgency? Whether they like it or not, they gotta get to trust the technology that you're building in Silicon Valley with encryption.
Yep. Yes, I definitely agree with you that at the end of the day, there's some human factor that the people have to overcome. But from the technologist point of view, we do the best we can do to gain the trust. So from these encryption technology that we are working on, all kinds of mathematicians are behind it, so they can prove, obviously, that the pages and pages of the paper you read, if you really are interested in, but you can tell how secure those the algorithm is.
I'm really glad that we've got you explaining all that in all those thick pages and just making it come to life. I'll bring in one question here from the audience. It's about the current AI and SOAR. Is it still advisable to get a cyber insurance?
Well, I think it depends on the type of cyber insurance that you are talking about. So it's, I think a blanket statement of yes and no is a bit dangerous. But I think so for the breach and then information being stolen, it is highly, no matter what you do, there's always a risk. And so obviously like any other insurance that you really have to assess the risk factor, and then obviously insurance premium, and then you have to make a decision that is it worth it or not. But if your intellectual property or whatever in the cyberspace that you need to protect, yes, I think this is a good option that you should think of.
I guess it all boils down to a balance of risk and rewards at the
Absolutely.
End of the day. Here's another question from Roy. When do you think a commercial version of a quantum computer be available to the public in the form, for instance, of a laptop?
So yeah, that's a good question. In my opinion, if the laptop that I use are based upon the quantum computing, if that's the goal, I would say that goal won't be achieved like probably 30 years or even longer down the road. Quantum computer today is that only applied to the very complex problem, and then so only some professional. We're definitely thinking that only some specific professionals are using. So that's the type of computer that we are focusing on, and then but that alone. It will take probably another, if we can get there in 10 years, I think we are good. Some people may saying that 10 years too optimistic, but again, the type of quantum computing computers that we are working on is a bit, we are applying a bit different theory than other quantum computer projects. So hopefully we can get there a bit quicker, around 10 years. So that's what we are looking at. But again, again, it's not, we're not aiming at replacing the laptop computer that you and I are using today. So.
Yeah, but it's encouraging. I mean, if you get a quantum computer in your hands, I mean, we're talking about Gen Z, millennials here in the audience who may be able to realize that. I mean, have a quantum computer maybe as a sort of a laptop or some kind of a device like this. There's another question from Renell. Can quantum computing and cryptography speed up the growth of emerging markets?
Yeah, that's a good question. I believe so. I believe, well, with, I think everybody's seeing now is that both good and bad, I think, but world is becoming smaller with over the last, I would say, maybe 20, 30 years since that internet became so pervasive. Everybody uses internet. And then I think that arguably, but that really make the world so much smaller over the years. And again, with the quantum, first of all, that the next generation cryptography will be used more widely, more exchange of information will happen. And then that will, I think, in theory, make that the smaller even, make the world even smaller. And the quantum, and then I think over the network, over those connected world, that everyone should be able to access to this vast computing power of quantum computing in one of those days. So so from this thinking process, I think that the world becomes smaller. I think in a good way. Everybody gets that the benefit of those things. So yeah, I think from this thinking process, I guess that to answer your questions, that that will benefit everyone.
Yeah, totally agree. Technology improving the quality of life. So just a big picture here, Kazu. You're basically providing the tool to fight any pandemic or disease for that matter. You've got quantum computing as the tool and cryptography to collect all that data. So how then do you upgrade reality in this sense? What are you seeing down the line? Say maybe in 3 years, 5 years, or even quicker?
I'm sure that, more, I'm sure we talked about the IoT, AI, those are flourishing. And I think the implementation of those things are speeding up even further, even faster. So yeah, I think at today's world, we're looking at 3 years down the road, when you look back, people probably may laugh at us that, 3 years ago, well, that was the normal, that was the reality. And so I think the from now to 3 years, things might be quite different. But at the same time, I'm a bit worried about that. In my earlier slide that I showed you, there are some, we've been kind of linear, we've been seeing the evolution of all different technologies in a linear curve. And many things is hinged upon that faster processor, bigger pipe of the networks and everything. But we definitely start seeing a bit of end of that based upon the current approach. So that's a bit of a concern that I have.